You've been lied to. From childhood, you were told that giving more, your time, your energy, your kindness, was the path to respect, love, and success. But look around. Who rises to the top? Is it the tireless worker who sacrifices everything, or the boss who delegates, takes credit, and rarely lifts a finger? Is it the humble helper, or the politician who never gives yet commands loyalty? Is it the consumer, or the influencer who gets free products without ever opening their wallet? Here's the brutal truth. The world doesn't reward generosity. It rewards perceived value. And those who master the art of seeming valuable while giving little are the ones who hold the power. That's why so many feel invisible despite their hard work. Today you'll uncover what few ever learn, 7 hidden principles of influence that allow you to get everything by giving almost nothing. Knowledge so counterintuitive, it feels like a secret kept from you. Ignore this and you'll stay trapped in the endless loop of overgiving and under-receiving. But master it, and you'll see the game for what it is, and finally play it on your terms. You've been conditioned to believe that giving is the highest virtue. And yes, generosity has its place, but when it comes to power, respect, and influence, psychology tells a different story. Human beings don't respond to effort. They respond to perception. They don't chase what is abundant. They chase what feels scarce. Think about it. Why do diamonds command such high value? Not because they are inherently useful, steel is far more practical, but because diamonds are perceived as rare. Scarcity creates desire. The same law applies to people. If you are always available, always giving, always saying yes, your presence becomes ordinary, predictable, and, ironically, forgettable. This is why restraint often trumps generosity. The one who withholds their attention, their approval, their resources, creates an aura of significance. By giving less, they force others to assign them more value. History is filled with examples of this. Machiavelli warned rulers that appearing generous too often weakens them. People grow entitled, expect more, and respect less. Kings and emperors maintained power not by constant giving, but by selective rewards, making each gesture of generosity feel like a treasure. Even in modern times, influencers thrive not because they flood the world with endless gifts, but because they create the illusion of exclusivity. A collaboration drop, a limited product line, a members-only space, it's not what they give, but what they withhold that drives desire. Psychologists call this the scarcity principle. When something feels limited, people's brains fire up with urgency. And there's another layer, the principle of contrast. If you give very little, even a small gesture seems immense. The king who rarely smiles can inspire loyalty with a single glance. The leader who seldom praises can ignite fierce motivation with a single word. The trap most people fall into is believing that more effort equals more recognition. But the paradox of influence is the opposite. The less you give, the more each offering matters. Influence is not built on generosity. It is built on controlled scarcity, on knowing when to hold back so that every move carries weight. This is why giving nothing, or almost nothing, often works better than giving everything. It's not about selfishness, it's about leverage. You're not devaluing others, you're forcing them to raise your value in their own minds. And this brings us to the mechanics, the hidden rules that the powerful use instinctively. 7 principles that explain why silence can be louder than words, why absence can create more presence than constant availability, and why withholding can make people chase you rather than ignore you. You're about to see them. Principle 1. The power of silence. Silence is not emptiness, it is pressure. It unsettles, it provokes, it forces others to fill the void. When you master silence, you stop being reactive and start becoming magnetic. In conversations, most people rush to respond. They overshare, they justify, they fill every pause with nervous words. But the person who holds silence, who waits, listens, and lets the air stretch, instantly gains power. Why? Because silence creates tension, and tension demands resolution. Others scramble to ease it, often revealing more than they intended, or giving ground just to escape the discomfort. Negotiators know this. A well-timed pause after a proposal can make the other side sweeten the deal out of sheer unease. Leaders know this. A manager who doesn't immediately react to a suggestion forces their team to sharpen their reasoning. Even in relationships, silence after an insult or a demand often speaks louder than anger. The other person begins to doubt themselves, to question their own words. History is filled with figures who weaponized silence. Steve Jobs, in product meetings, would often remain silent after hearing a pitch. His stillness was more intimidating than any criticism. Those around him rushed to defend, to explain, to improve, because the silence demanded it. The king who speaks rarely is feared. The king who never stops talking is mocked. Here's the paradox. The less you speak, the more weight your words carry. When silence is your default, even a single sentence feels like a decree. By contrast, when you speak endlessly, your voice becomes background noise. Your takeaway is simple. Resist the urge to fill every gap. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Speak only when it matters, and you'll find that others lean in, desperate to hear you, desperate to win your approval. Silence is not absence of power, it is concentrated power. Principle 2. The illusion of value. Value is rarely about what something is. It's about what people believe it is. Influence comes not from giving more, but from controlling perception. If people think you hold something rare, they will chase you, even if the something is little more than smoke and mirrors. Consider luxury brands. The material of a high-end handbag may not differ dramatically from its cheaper counterpart, yet one is worshipped, displayed like a status symbol, while the other is dismissed. Why? Because the brand has mastered the illusion of value, scarcity, exclusivity, mystique. They give almost nothing tangible, yet extract extraordinary loyalty and wealth. People operate the same way. A person who constantly offers their time, attention, or affection is unconsciously signaling, "I am easy to access, therefore I am less valuable." But the person who controls their availability, who offers less yet projects confidence, is seen as possessing something worth fighting for. This principle runs deep in history. Ancient oracles spoke in riddles, offering little clarity, yet kings and warriors traveled great distances to hear them. Their ambiguity created mystique. By saying less, by giving vague fragments instead of full answers, they became indispensable. Psychology calls this the scarcity-value link. When your presence feels limited, people assume it must be precious. When your approval is rare, it becomes addictive. The less you offer, the more imagination fills the gap, and imagination always exaggerates. Think of it this way. Gold is just metal until people decide it's treasure. Influence works the same. You don't need to constantly prove your worth. You only need to project it. Your takeaway: stop over-supplying yourself. Don't always explain. Don't always justify. Don't always give. Create mystery. Let others assume your value instead of trying to prove it. Because once they believe, they'll treat you as if it's true. The illusion of value often matters more than value itself. Principle 3. The art of withholding. There is a strange paradox in human desire. The less you give, the more people want. The moment you withhold, your time, your attention, your agreement, you trigger pursuit. People don't long for what they already possess. They long for what feels just out of reach. Think about dating. The person who is always available, always texting back instantly, always saying yes, quickly loses their charm. But the one who occasionally withdraws, who doesn't respond immediately, who maintains a slight distance, becomes magnetic. Their scarcity creates craving. In business, the same rule applies. When a product is labeled limited edition or only a few left in stock, sales skyrocket. Not because the product changed, but because the act of withholding, restricting access, intensifies demand. People don't want abundance. They want what feels forbidden, rare, elusive. History offers the same lesson. Great rulers knew not to grant every request. The king who says yes to all loses authority. The one who withholds, who forces subjects to earn his favor, makes each concession feel like a gift. By denying more than he gives, he multiplies his own value. Psychology names this the hard-to-get effect. Humans are wired to assign greater worth to things that resist them. The chase itself inflates the prize. Here's your takeaway. Stop giving automatic yeses. Stop offering constant availability. Strategic withholding is not cruelty, it's leverage. By resisting the urge to flood people with your attention, you make what you do offer priceless. Because in influence, what you hold back matters more than what you give. Principle 4. The reciprocity hack. Human beings are wired with an ancient program, the need to return favors. If someone gives you even a token gesture, your brain whispers, "I owe them." This reflex is so powerful that even the smallest gift can open the door to influence. Psychologists tested this in restaurants. When waiters placed a single mint with the bill, tips went up slightly, but when they paused, looked the customer in the eye and added, "Here's an extra mint just for you," tips skyrocketed. The cost? A penny. The return? Often several dollars. This is reciprocity in action. Massive gain for almost nothing given. Influence masters exploit this constantly. Marketers send free samples. Politicians shake hands and remember names. These gestures are small, even meaningless in material value, yet they create a sense of debt. People feel compelled to repay, not in equal measure, but often in excess. History shows the same trick. Roman generals would sometimes distribute crumbs of wealth to soldiers before battle. It wasn't enough to enrich them, but it was enough to bind their loyalty. That tiny gesture created a psychological contract. You gave me something, now I must give you everything. The hack is clear, you don't need to give much, you just need to give first. A kind word, a small favor, a moment of recognition. These cost almost nothing, yet they unlock the reflex of repayment. And once activated, people will go out of their way to balance the scales. Your takeaway. Strategic generosity works best when it is minimal, but symbolic. Give a fraction and watch people return in multiples. Because influence isn't about equal exchange, it's about planting the smallest seed and letting human psychology do the rest. Principle 5. Social proof without effort. People are herd creatures. When unsure, they look sideways, not inward. They ask, "What is everyone else doing?" And then they follow. This is the law of social proof, the invisible current that pulls human behavior. What makes this powerful is that you don't need to prove your worth directly. You only need others to signal it for you. Once people see that others admire you, listen to you, or desire you, they assume you must be valuable, and that assumption spreads like fire. Think about nightclubs. A long line outside signals popularity, even if the venue is half empty inside. The crowd becomes the proof. Or consider social media. The influencer with thousands of followers is treated as credible, even if their actual expertise is thin. It's not the substance, it's the perception created by numbers, by visible admiration. History echoes the same principle. When Alexander the Great entered conquered cities, he didn't just rely on soldiers, he staged grand processions, trumpets, banners, crowds in awe. The spectacle was the proof. Citizens saw others bowing, so they bowed too. His influence multiplied, without him giving anything except an appearance. Psychology shows us why. Humans fear being wrong alone. If everyone else believes something, your brain feels safer aligning with them. It's survival instinct, repurposed for modern life. Your takeaway. Don't try to convince people one by one. Let others do the convincing for you. Showcase testimonials, highlight popularity, create visible signals of demand. When people see others valuing you, they will copy, even if they don't know why. Influence without effort is possible because the crowd will always amplify the signal you set. Principle 6. Let others invest in you. There's a strange quirk in human psychology. We value more what we work for than what is simply handed to us. This is called the IKEA effect, named after the way people adore the furniture they assemble themselves, even if it's crooked, even if it wobbles. Effort creates attachment. Now, apply this to influence. If people invest in you, time, energy, resources, even small favors, they begin to value you more, not less. The more they pour into you, the harder it becomes for them to walk away because abandoning you would mean admitting their effort was wasted. Instead, they double down. History demonstrates this over and over. Cult leaders often require followers to sacrifice, money, possessions, endless hours of devotion. The more followers gave, the more fiercely they defended the leader, because admitting betrayal would mean facing the unbearable truth of their own wasted loyalty. The investment chained them tighter than any lock. In business, it works the same. When customers build part of a product, customizing, co-creating, or even giving feedback, they feel ownership. They don't just use the product, they defend it, promote it, evangelize it. They've invested, so their identity is tied to it. In relationships too, the principle is clear. When someone makes effort for you, picking you up, helping you move, defending you in arguments, they subconsciously raise your value. They see you as worth the sacrifice because their own actions demand it. Your takeaway: don't always do all the work. Don't rush to ease every burden. Let others invest in you, help you, defend you, even sacrifice for you. Each act of investment deepens their attachment, because in influence, loyalty isn't bought by what you give, it's built by what others give to you. Principle 7. Controlled image influence is not just about what you do, it's about what people think you do. And here lies the final principle: the art of controlling your image. Appearances often outweigh reality. If you master how you are perceived, you can give almost nothing yet seem endlessly valuable. Consider politicians. Many rise to power not by delivering constant results, but by projecting strength, vision, or compassion. Their speeches are filled with promises rather than tangible gifts. Yet people rally behind them. Why? Because the image satisfies more than the reality. Psychology proves this. People are more influenced by impressions than by facts. First impressions especially create powerful anchors. If you appear confident, people assume competence. If you appear scarce, people assume value. Even if the substance isn't there, the perception carries weight. History offers striking examples. Monarchs staged elaborate coronations, not because the rituals had practical purpose, but because the spectacle reinforced the illusion of divine power. The robes, the crown, the ceremony, all image, little substance. Yet subjects obeyed, believing they stood before someone untouchable. In modern life, the same principle applies. Social media influencers post carefully curated fragments of their lives. A single photo in an expensive car, even if rented, shapes perception more powerfully than years of unseen struggle. They don't need to give reality, they only need to give an image. Your takeaway: don't waste energy trying to prove yourself in endless detail. Instead, control the narrative. Choose what people see and let them fill in the rest with their imagination. Give compliments instead of gifts. Share vision instead of resources. Offer the appearance of generosity while keeping your leverage intact. Because in influence, perception isn't just reality, it's greater than reality. Control your image, and you control the game. At this point, you might be thinking, so if influence is about giving nothing, isn't this just manipulation? Isn't it dangerous? And you'd be right to pause here, because every powerful tool cuts both ways. Fire can warm a village or burn it down. Influence, if misused, can destroy trust and reputations faster than it builds them. Let's start with the dangers. If you rely too heavily on appearances without substance, eventually reality catches up. Politicians who make promises without delivery are eventually exposed. Influencers who build fake lifestyles are eventually unmasked. Leaders who charm without character eventually collapse. The short-term gains of empty giving can backfire into long-term ruin. Psychology shows us why. Humans can be deceived, but not indefinitely. Trust, once broken, is far harder to rebuild than it was to win in the first place. A manipulated friend turns into an enemy. A misled audience turns into critics. Influence used recklessly can make you powerful for a moment, but powerless forever. Now, the ethical angle. Influence doesn't have to mean exploitation. The principles you've learned, scarcity, perception, indirect generosity, emotional leverage, can be applied ethically. For example, a teacher who carefully controls their image of authority can maintain order in a classroom, not to harm students, but to help them learn. A leader who holds back certain resources may do so not to exploit, but to motivate others towards self-sufficiency. In other words, influence is a neutral force. It becomes good or bad depending on the intent behind it. Think of it like medicine. The same chemical can heal or poison depending on the dose. So, how do you keep yourself on the ethical side? Check your motive. Ask, am I using this strategy to help others grow, or just to enrich myself at their expense? Balance perception with substance. Yes, image matters, but backing it up with real value, even in small doses, creates influence that lasts. Avoid zero-sum thinking. True influence isn't about taking everything while giving absolutely nothing. It's about giving just enough to keep others invested while preserving your leverage. Remember, the art of influence is not about becoming a fraud. It's about learning to protect your energy, resources, and power while still advancing in life. You don't need to give everything away to be respected, loved, or followed. You need to give strategically, used ethically. These principles can help you navigate social hierarchies, protect yourself from manipulation, and achieve more with less effort. Used unethically, they turn you into the very manipulator people warn against. The choice is yours. And this leads us to the final piece: how you, personally, can apply these principles in your life with clarity, responsibility, and confidence. So let's step back and see the bigger picture. We've walked through 7 timeless principles of influence. 1. Power of silence. 2. Illusion of value. 3. The art of withholding. 4. Reciprocity, hack. 5. Social proof without effort. 6. Let others invest in you. 7. Controlled image. Each of these strategies shows that influence is rarely about what you give. It's about what you withhold, what you suggest, and what you allow others to believe. Here's the brutal truth. In a world full of noise, the ones who rise are not always the most generous, the most skilled, or the most hard-working. They are the ones who understand human psychology, who know when to give, when to hold back, and how to create desire without depleting themselves. But here's something even more important. These principles aren't just for gaining power over others, they're for protecting yourself. Once you understand how influence works, you can spot when others are using it on you. You'll recognize false generosity, emotional hooks, manufactured scarcity, and image manipulation. And instead of being caught in someone else's game, you'll be able to play your own. So what should you do next? First, don't try to apply everything at once. Choose just one principle and experiment with it. Maybe practice strategic silence in your next conversation, or project a controlled image in your professional environment. Small steps, repeated, create lasting mastery. Second, reflect on your ethics. Ask yourself, how can I use these tools to create influence without losing integrity? Because lasting power comes from balancing perception with reality. Finally, commit to learning more. The psychology of influence is vast, and what we've explored today is just the surface. The more you understand, the less you'll be manipulated, and the more you'll be able to lead. So if this video sparked something in you, if you found yourself thinking, I never realized influence worked this way, then don't let it end here. Subscribe for more insights, share this with someone who needs to see it, and most importantly, practice these ideas in your own life. Because influence isn't just about getting everything by giving nothing. It's about mastering yourself, mastering perception, and mastering the hidden rules that govern human relationships. Play the game wisely, and you won't just survive in this world, you'll thrive.